Hey guys, and welcome to another video in my route guide series. This route that I'm going to talk about today, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with, and it is the Eastern Beaches. It features some of the most popular spots in Sydney, including Bondi Beach, Tamarama Beach, and Rose Bay. And it's definitely a staple of Sydney cycling for people who live in the eastern suburbs or around the city. It's 30 kilometers with plenty of hills, in total about 500 meters of elevation, and it is great as an early weekday morning ride. It's also one of the first routes that I tried when I was a beginner cyclist and I had a mountain bike, and it's safe to say I had to push my bike up a few of the hills. So I'm just pre-warning you guys that while this route is super scenic and one of the most popular rides in Sydney, it's also very hilly and there's some pretty hard sections. The purpose of this guide is to show you the route, as well as some pointers like where you can get water from, go to the bathroom, as well as my favorite cafe along the route. If you enjoy this kind of videos, I have a whole series of rider guides which I will link below, and I'll also pop up on the screen right now. But without further ado, let's get into the video. The first section of this route is about 12 kilometers long, mostly rolling hills with a few little steep pinches, and it follows the coastline and some of the beautiful bays such as Rushcutters Bay, Double Bay, and Rose Bay. For the purpose of this route guide, we're going to be starting at Fraser Fountain at the corner of St Mary's Road and Prince Albert Road, not to be confused by Fraser Fountain in Hyde Park, which looks identical and is only 200 meters away. From this starting point, you can see the famous St Mary's Cathedral as well as Hyde Park, and if you want an extra kilometre or two, you can even go to Mrs McCrory's Chair, where you get one of the best views of the Sydney Opera House with the Harbour Bridge behind it. This first section takes us through Woolloomooloo, past the Australian Naval Base where you see some battleships, and along some beautiful bays in the eastern suburbs. This is home to some of the most expensive houses in Sydney, and the back streets in this area are quite nice and quiet. However, take care when you go onto New South Head Road, as this road can get very busy, especially during peak hours, and there's no dedicated bike lane. Throughout riding this whole section, there'll be many times where you can look over to your left and see Sydney Harbour peeking between some houses and buildings, or just along the bays. This next section was where the climbs begin, and it's about 9 kilometers long with almost 200 meters elevation within it. The first climb is one of the most well known in Sydney and is called Heartbreak Hill. This is because it is the KOM section of City to Surf, which is the biggest fun run event in Sydney. Most people will know this hill, and if they mention it to you, it's because they've had their heart broken while running up it. But in reality, it's actually not that bad on a bike. In this version of the route, we are only going to go about halfway up the climb, which is about 800 meters at 6%. Once we turn off the climb, we go onto the back streets, and we'll be on some nice back roads which are mostly downhill. We'll follow the coast until we get to Watson's Bay, where you can stop at Robinson Park for some water and a public bathroom, and you can also take a photo at the famous sandstone formation called The Gap. This spot is especially beautiful during sunrise. As you face the east, you can see the sun rising over the Pacific Ocean, and the sandstone colour becomes a vibrant yellow colour and is contrasted by the deep blue of the ocean below. Definitely a good spot to have a little break. You will need a break for sure before tackling the next climb, which is also called The Gap. I PTSD from this segment since it's so steep in some sections, and when I first started riding my bike, I had to push my bike on the footpath next to the road because it was so bad. The segment is 700 meters long with an average grade of 8%, but there are some sections as steep as 12% in the middle. Your reward for reaching the top of the hill though is a beautiful view of Macquarie Lighthouse.
Safety is probably the number one important thing when you're on the road. And I'd say that when you're on the bike, there's only two things that actually contribute to your safety, apart from safe riding. One is your helmet, and the other is lights. So that's when Lumos reached out to me, offering me to just try out one of their helmets. I was really keen. because one of the key features of their helmets is that you can actually mount a light in the back of it, and you can do it magnetically like this. It's actually a very secure magnet. I tried shaking it out a few times. Now, some other really cool features about this helmet that I haven't seen on many other helmets. This helmet actually ticks a lot of boxes. One, grippers for your sunglasses to keep them secure. It's got a Fidlock magnetic clasp here at the bottom, like that. You can actually do it with one hand. Maybe not put it back together with one hand. It's got a boa dial on the back, so you can tighten it as you need. And it's got MIPS. So MIPS is multi-impact directional safety, something like that. So essentially there's like a safety net inside the helmet which lets your head rotate independently of the helmet. So that stops your neck from straining when you have any impacts with the ground. In terms of the look of the helmet, I'm wearing the white one here. I'd definitely say it's a little bit more commuter spec. It is a little bit heavier than my typical helmet that I'd run, but you can't put a price or style factor on safety probably. So yeah, it's something I really like. Been using it for a while now. The last thing I want to talk about is the lights it comes with, because it comes with these really neat little lights that have almost infinite mounting options. So you can put it on your backpack like I have for my commuter bag, you can put it on the back of your bike, or you can even use it as indicators on your bike, and then you can control it using a little control pad that you've put on your handlebars. Now, I haven't done that for my bike, but what I've done is I've put it on my commuter backpack instead. And the cool thing about these lights is they all sync up on your phone. You can set them all up. You put the layout of where they are. So for example, I say, well, I've got one on my helmet and some on my rear, and then you can get all the lights to sync up. When you turn one of them off, they all turn off. Really handy. So you get like a little network of lights. So yeah, that's just some cool features from Lumos. Thank you very much guys for sending me the helmet and these lights. And yeah, if you guys are interested in it, I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks guys, let's get on with the video.
And now we get on to the best section of all, which is the one that you've been waiting for. This section is about 12 kilometers long, and the key features are Bondi Beach, a little climb before Bronte, and finally our cafe stop. After all the climbing, we deserve some downhill descending, and you'll get to enjoy that on Military Road. At the bottom of Military Road, you'll get a panoramic view of Bondi Beach. Along the beach, there's a bike lane, so you can pull over and get off your bike and spend some time hanging around, enjoying the scenery. But we kept pedaling through and we headed to our next destination, which is Tamarama Beach. This is the most scenic for cyclists, as a spectacular view as the road is along the edge of the cliff with the sea below. There's a nice white fence bordering the horizon, and I don't think it's possible to come here without taking a photo. This next bit involves a bit of riding through Bronte Park, which is very steep and you'll need to take it slowly, and there's also bathrooms and water in this park. If you want to ride a bit faster and a bit safer, I'd recommend detouring around this park by taking Hewlett Street, Murray Street and then Bronte Road. Once you get to the other side of the park, you're on to our last climb of the day. The segment is called EMC Bronte and it's 1.8 kilometers long and 3.6%. And if you want a slightly longer and less steep climb, you can go via the car park like we're doing in the footage here. Also, alternatively, you can stick to the road, which is a bit shorter but also steeper. And now for the reason why you've stuck around, the cafe stop. My recommendation is Iggy's Pastries. When I first started riding, this is what got me to do this route. I really wanted to try this, especially their almond croissant, which is what they're famous for. And to be honest though, everything there is really good. Just a warning though, they're only open 3 days a week, which is Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So because of this, I'll suggest an alternate bakery which is nearby, which is Tugga, or some people call it Tuga. They're famous for their Portuguese tart, and I also highly recommend the Bombolini. Once you finish your cafe stop, it's really simple to get back to the end of this route. All we're going to do is head down Darley Road, and then Centennial Park is right there. And as much as people like to complain that Centennial Park is boring, I think everyone secretly kind of loves it. A perfectly smooth 3.7 kilometer cycling circuit in the middle of the city in a beautiful park. What more could you ask for? If that sounds good to you, I actually made a guide on Centennial Park and how to get there from the city, and why don't you check it out? Alright guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If cycling guides and route guides are something that you guys like, let me know in the comments below and also by liking the video. Take care guys, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.